Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I want to talk about the Wizards. Now, I've talked about them before on this channel. I don't follow them at all, but they are one of our teams that we do a lot of trades with. The Washington Wizards, obviously, anybody who follows the Lakers knows I'm a Laker fan. So that's really what we're saying here is so kind of want to dig in a little bit on what they look like from afar to me at this point. I said in the offseason that if I were a GM, I would like their situation a lot because they have a lot of cap space and they have their picks and the ability to kind of maneuver into whatever timeline they choose. But there's one monkey wrench in that situation, and that is Bradley Beal's contract. 5 years, $43 million, I think is what it is. They gave him a super duper high level contract, and they don't necessarily have a timeline that makes any sense for him. Now, one could say he has a running mate in Kristaps Porzingis, but I'm not going to tell you that I believe Kristaps Porzingis is a number two for him. No, there should be another player in place ahead of both of those guys. And then Kyle Kuzma, they think that guy is going to be that guy, and it looks like they're going to pay him now. He has $13 million, 2 years left, but I think he's up for an extension to which they'll probably max him all the way out. They're going to have Kyle Kuzma, Bradley Beal, and Kristaps Porzingis in the Eastern Conference. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. And it's one of those situations where it's like if you don't mind being in no man's land and you're just cool with making the play-in tournament, you can get to the play-in tournament without spending so much money on salary. You know what I mean? You can get that same production if you get rid of some of those players. You'll be in the same space. So Bradley Beal should not want to be there. He should want the contract, but he should not want to be there. So this is one of those situations where I'm like, all right, there's a situation that I'm looking at is Chicago with Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine wants to be a Laker. Chicago wants to get rid of his contract. The timeline makes a lot more sense if they swap those two contracts. And that just came to me right now. I had no intention of saying that, but it just hit me as I'm sitting here. I'm like, yo, that's maybe the only way for Zach LaVine to move into a situation where he can be a superstar, spread his wings, and get all the shots he wants up. And then he's young enough to be a part of that timeline with Washington as they turn the corner with Porzingis and of course Kuzma. He makes more sense for that timeline. He's more so their age. Bradley Beal's an older guy. He's probably looking to be in a situation that's different than that. Now, would he want to go to Chicago? Probably not. But what I can say is you pair him up with DeMar DeRozan, pair him up with guys like DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, Ayo Dosunmu, Bradley Beal. I like that lineup. I like that lineup just as much as I like Zach LaVine in that lineup, but more so, he fits the timeline a little better in some ways. And so on and so forth. And I think Zach would probably be in a better situation in Washington because he's the only guy there. He can just get up, he can just average 35 points a game for one. And as they continue to bring talent to him, it'd be Kuzma and him going back and forth. You probably trade Porzingis and find a better running mate for what it is that they're doing. Keep Kispert because he can shoot like crazy. You know what I mean? And I look at that situation. Denny Advija is a player they like a lot. He's rebounding the ball. He's doing combo stuff. He can set the ball up. They might want to put the ball in his hands and let him be a point guard for them. That might make sense. Because since that was what he was supposed to be initially anyway as a point forward, I think letting him play make is the future. That's the future. And then last but not least is Johnny Davis, who is the 10th pick overall in the draft, who I don't really know what's going on, but I think if I'm not mistaken, he was hurt when they first drafted him. So it may be a situation where he's just not healthy yet or he's trying to work himself into shape, and couple that with him being a mid-lottery rookie. It's not like you expect him to come out and immediately destroy the league. But what I do remember from doing a little homework on Johnny Davis was that he's also somebody who can set people up. He's also somebody who does a lot of combo stuff, triple-double threat when he fully develops. So, you know, when you're looking at their situation, it's like, all right, we can argue that the Washington Wizards have drafted really bad. We can also argue that they haven't had good success in the draft in terms of their lottery. It's not like they're getting the first pick in the draft every year. They're sort of like the Knicks. They just kind of end up getting the 8th, 9th every year. So that really has a large to do with why their situation is that as it is. But I think they have enough assets, tradable assets, to reset their timeline so that they can make more sense. And I think that's the word of the day for the Washington Wizards is timeline. You don't want to be in a space where you don't have one. And that's exactly where they're at. You got Bradley Beal, who's in his mid-30s. You got Kyle Kuzma, who's in his early 20s. You got Porzingis, who's in his late 20s. It's just a lot of all Davis and Kispert, who are or basically youngsters getting into the league right now. You look at guys like Monte Morris who can move on at any point. You know, you're not married to these players like that. A lot of them that you have on that roster as well. You got Taj Gibson, who's like 106 years old. It's like, what are they doing? Where are we if you're the Washington Wizards? And I think they can very easily answer that question by just committing to one or the other. And the problem with committing to the younger timeline is they don't have good enough young players. That's the problem. But again, if you trade Bradley Beal for, say, a Zach LaVine, I think your timeline looks a little better there. Maybe you try to see if you can shop Bradley Beal for some other stuff. Maybe you could try to get some picks for Bradley Beal, try to shop him to a team that could really use him. But the problem is you paid him so much and nobody really sees that as an asset. Now you're going to run into certain teams who are going to be like, yo, you're going to give me a first round pick to get that off your books. And so that's the problem with paying a superstar legendary player that you value more than the rest of the league does. That's what Bradley Beal is. In Washington, they love him. He helped them through the John Wall era, where obviously John Wall he got hit with those horrible injuries after signing his massive contract, and he was supposed to be John Wall's number 2. So that, you know, he ended up taking on that number 1 role, and they ended up paying him, and he grew in that role, but they never really were supposed to have him as a number 1 guy, man. Never. Ever. He was never a number 1 guy. And so this is one of those situations where it's just the Washington Wizards kind of done things the wrong way. And I'm watching a player like Kyle Kuzma who looks like he's about to take their bag. And I think it's a good thing, but I have a feeling he's going to end up in a situation like Zach LaVine where he just assumes that once he signs that contract with that little team that it's going to be able to get moved somewhere else. And what I'm saying is I think we're reaching an era where players better be careful not to think that they're going to be able to get the hell out of certain situations just because you are of your cachet. Once you sign yourself to a massive contract, now it becomes a situation of whether or not somebody's going to see it as something they want. They don't care what player you are. If you're too expensive, they can't build around you, and it doesn't make any sense. Now, the team that you're signing with ain't thinking like that. But the team that's going to acquire that contract, if they want to win, they had better. And that's the problem a lot of these free agents are running into. It's like, yeah, you want to take the bag, but you're stuck in a bad situation. You're going to be the Wizards guy, and you're going to lose with them if they don't make things happen in the timeline that you signed up for, as to what you don't expect it, especially looking at what they are on paper. What I would tell Kyle Kuzma is, do not expect to move on from Washington just because you signed with them and expect them to be able to move that contract. They may not be able to. Look at Bradley Beal. He's stuck there too. You're going to be there. And so that's one of the things I tell Kyle Kuzma, nah. They may want to keep you, but you would be wise to test free agency and see if you can get that bag in a better situation. Because if someone else is willing to pay you that same amount somewhere else, you can take that bag. Because they are not doing things correctly, and that's where we're at. It's the purpose of my video. The Washington Wizards aren't doing things correctly. I like them. If I were a GM, I'd like them. But the first thing I'd want to do is tear it all up. I'm moving Porzingis. I'm moving all those guys. I'm moving Monte Morris. I'm moving any of the players that are not in the timeline of the youth. And then I'm going to move them for picks that are better than they were. And then I'm going to try to get in that Wembanyama, Thompson, Scoots, Henderson sweepstakes. That's what Washington needs to be a part of. They need to be tanking. They need to lose every game they're in from here on out. They've already won too many games. They need to lose every game they're in. And this whole chasing Kyle Kuzma to pay him $120 million, trust you me. As somebody who had Kyle Kuzma as a rook and all the way up through his championship era, he is not a number 1, nor 2, nor 3. He's a really nice player, but he's not a number 1, 2, or 3, y'all. So if you sign him to $120 million, you're going to be bad. That's a fact. He's a good player where he's at. He might even get a little better, but that's not championship stuff if he don't have LeBron and the 80 next to him. So I know Washington is a different type of team. As a Laker fan, I'm always reaching for championships. All this, my mentality is always winning. But if I have to put my mindset in another team situation, I got to kind of give myself a different scale from which to aim for. But I tell you the truth, if you're bringing in somebody from the Laker organization, I won't. You know what I mean? If, like, for example, if they were to bring me in, I'm not going to change. I think we're supposed to win. Now, I know it may be not as easy to get certain things to me, but I'm still going to be looking for the same stuff I'd be looking for if I were a Laker. First thing I need to do is get my scouts in order. What's the problem with us? We need to be able to get something out of nothing, and we're not good at that. So the first thing I'm doing is trying to get scouts. If I'm Washington, I'm not looking for much of anything other than picks and personnel, if I don't already have it in place. We need to build our farm system, whatever their farm system is. I'm not certain what it is. We need to have that established. And over the next 2 or 3 years, have players coming in and out of it. Follow what Sacramento's doing. Follow what Memphis is doing. That's all you really need to do, Washington. You start from the bottom. And look, even though you didn't have the greatest draft picks, I'm of the mindset that they didn't swing and miss on none of those draft picks. Johnny Davis is the 10th pick in the draft. He hasn't played yet. I'm not certain he's not going to be very good just because he hasn't had a chance to get on the floor yet. I'm not going to assume that at all. Not even slightly. In fact, if the Washington Wizards don't want Johnny Davis, the Lakers will be happy to take him. And we'll figure out what's wrong with him from you. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's no problem with a lottery pick that was just drafted 4 months ago. Nothing wrong with him. If he has health issues, then we're just waiting on him to get healthy. That's it. So as far as I can tell with Johnny Davis, he's still on par to be exactly what you drafted him to be. You may have to wait on him a little bit, but if you're fixing your timeline to do so, it shouldn't be a problem. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to Orlando. I'm getting Jalen Suggs out of there. Give me a starting point guard. Give me a starting point guard. Give me one on the low. Give me Peyton Pritchard from Boston. I'm going to get me a player. You know what I mean? That's the thing about the Washington Wizards. They need to be targeting people just like I want the Lakers to target. A guy like Romeo Langford in Washington, in San Antonio, go trade for him. Go get him. Bring him to your situation. I'm thinking about all kinds of guys. Terrence Mann in Clipperland, go trade for him. Go bring him to your situation. Some of those guys over there in OKC. If I'm Washington, I'm going to call OKC and see if I can get some of those guys that may be available on the back of that bench. Trey Mann. Give me both demands. Both demands, that's what I'm going to do. Give me both demands on demand. I'm going to get one from the Clippers. I'm getting one from OKC, and I'm bringing them both to Washington to me. These are the type of things I'm going to do immediately if I have any opportunity to do so. And with the stuff that they have, they can. You take Bradley Beal, you ship him to a place, wherever you can find him. And then you get other teams involved giving you those pieces in his stead along with picks. You don't look for a swing and strike it rich. No. You get yourself an entire roster of decent players that are retradable, just like Utah did. That's what you do if you're Washington. And you get a bunch of picks, if possible, with your Bradley Beal and your Porzingis. You trade them for whatever pick equity you can get them for. If you want to resign Kyle Kuzma to a $120 million contract, he should be the only thing on the books. And then he's going to be playing with Corey Kispert. He's going to be playing with Johnny Davis. He's going to be playing with whatever lottery pick you get up here right now. And that should be the team Kyle Kuzma will be playing on the duration of that contract while you fix your books and build your farm system and get a bunch of picks your way. Because all this stuff that you're doing with Porzingis and Bradley Beal, believe me, you're going to suck as bad as you are right now for the rest of the duration of time those contracts are on tab, unless you start doing things to bring yourself better talent than what you have. Denny Avdija is a player I like a lot, but if you're not going to sign him at his highest potential salary, if you don't see yourself giving him a $100 million bag when he ascends to that level, trade him. Find a spot for him and bring yourself back another piece that you would want to pay. A piece that maybe can shoot a little better or whatever your thoughts would be. Denny's had the leg break injury that kind of set back his development, but I still think he's on par to be really good. I do. I would love to bring him in if I were a Laker fan. Another player that if Washington don't want him, I'll take him. That type of thing. So it's like, I don't think Washington's devoid of talent. They just need better talent. They need to finally get themselves a number one. They ain't had one since John Wall. No disrespect to Bradley Beal, but case is set in stone. He's not a champion because he doesn't have the star talent around him. You know what I mean? And misevaluating talent or just reaching for guys that you really, really like because you are in a position you can't get nobody else is the wrong way to play. I'm telling you, it's the wrong way to play. It's the wrong way to play. When you're the Washington Wizards and you can't get any free agents, gives a damn about no damn free agents. I want the most valuable little stuff I can find. That Rui Hachimura deal, getting those 3 picks, you want those picks to strike it rich. And since you don't necessarily have the greatest luck with those picks, you probably should be looking to retrade those picks if you're not going to get those scouts and get yourself some more developed talent. Guys who are a little closer to having already been in the league 2 or 3 years, who've popped a little bit. Now you want to go take those picks and turn them into those players. 2-year, second-year guys, third-year guys. They don't even have to be that good. Like I said, a Romeo Langford. We talked about the Lakers are obviously trying to go after Cam Reddish. Washington should be going after Cam Reddish. You know what I mean? These are the type of moves you make. You want to find stuff that is on the back of benches that could possibly pop for you. And you want to get yourself some size, too. Porzingis is obviously 7'3". Maybe you get him a running mate. Maybe you get him a 7-foot running mate of some sort. You know, Kyle Kuzma's 6'10", but I tell you, I think Kyle can play the three just fine. I mean, that shouldn't be an issue at all. Kyle Kuzma's close to 7 feet, but I've always looked at him as a pure four, stretch, five at times. He can play the three as well, just comfortably. So you can afford to put him at that three and then find yourself another C. You know what I mean? So these are things I'm thinking about if I'm them. Give me values, man. Give me value, and let us tank if I'm the Washington Wizards, because at the end of the day, being in no man's land keeps everything on your team from being valuable. You don't have any value. You know what I mean? All these players that are not developing properly, got to feature them. You know what I mean? You got to feature these guys. You got to allow them to get them opportunities. You just picked up Kendrick Nunn. Kendrick Nunn's expiring. I think Kendrick Nunn's going to play better for the Wizards than he played for the Lakers because he's in better shape. And I think he's going to ascend into a real scorer in this league. Even though he has his shortcomings, I think he's going to help a team. He's going to be very streaky. And as he continues to grow, we're going to remember that he has a lot of game. It's just that we had the worst of him. Come fresh off that injury, we had to deal with him trying to work his way back into shape and having not played in almost 2 years. It wasn't a good look. But with more reps and more playing time, Kendrick Nunn's going to be good. But the thing is, does he have a future in Washington? Probably not. So if I'm the Washington Wizards, obviously you either let him expire, extend him to something that's affordable, and then trade him next season or something like that. But maybe you keep him, but you got to have the playmakers to make him make sense. Because if you put the ball in his hands and ask him to do other things, it's going to be a struggle. You got to put him in actions that allow him to be rhythmic and to have that type of thing in his system that allows him to run. So I don't know if Washington has that in place, if they're developing that. I don't follow close enough. I know Wes Unseld is their coach. It's pretty solid. I'm not certain. I just leave that up to you guys to tell me. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. You want to take advantage of the fact that there are some pieces on this team that are mid-tier guys, role players that you want to keep, just like the Lakers have. I look at Corey Kispert as a keeper, bro. You got to hold on to that dude. That's a shooter. I don't care that he's not a superstar if he doesn't have all-star upside. It don't matter. You keep him because he barely misses. He barely misses. So for what he is, he's an excellent piece. And like I said, I think Kyle Kuzma at a good price. I mean, I want him back on my team. So if at a good price, obviously I want him here. But I also know we have stars ahead of him that can put him in a role that allows him not to have to be that number one guy. Granted, he's better in your role with more shots up. But if it comes down to it, and I think I need to win a championship, I know what it takes to win a championship with Kyle Kuzma. We've already done it. So it's one of those situations where it's like, if you're aiming for something unprecedented in Washington, you got to do things unprecedented. You can't accept that your position as a small market team is just going to be your failure, so you got to aim low. No, I've seen small market teams succeed. We watched it. You know what I mean? We've seen it too many times. Small market teams find a way. You just got to do things properly. So you develop talent. That's what you want to do. And if you're not able to develop talent, you bring in the personnel that can. And that is what Washington's job is right now. Find the scouts. Find the scouts. Don't necessarily worry about getting draft picks if the people in place can't draft worth a damn. Find the scouts. And so that's the move. And get rid of Bradley Beal's contract. Please do that for yourself. Don't have him dragging along on a farewell mission to nowhere, bro. What are you farewelling? You ain't won nothing. Get him somewhere where he can win. That's what this is about. If I'm going to tell the truth about Bradley Beal, that's it. I don't believe guys who ain't won nothing should be doing no farewell tours for the last couple of years of their careers on a bad team. Hell no. You need to get off of that team and get to your Celtics, get to your Suns, or whatever team you can get a championship with. Because honestly, that's what Bradley Beal needs. He needs a championship. He needs to be in a situation where he can win. And his contract is kind of in the way of that, but not in every situation. But definitely in Washington. So he needs to get the hell out of there. And Washington should want that, man. You did your job. You paid him. That was the point, to make sure he was taken care of for the rest of his life because he had spent all that time with y'all. You don't owe him the timeline. No, you don't owe that to him. You don't owe that to yourself. You're not going to win that way. You got to now salute. Thank you, Bradley, for all that you've done. We're going to send you off to a place where we can help you win, maybe Philly or something like that, and we're going to bring back as much as we can. You know what I mean? And that's what the Washington Wizards should be doing now. And like I said, if you're going to pay Kyle Kuzma $130, $140 million, just know that that's a bad contract. And this is coming from a Kuzma fan. That's a bad contract, friend. It's bad. It's not good. I'm sorry. Kuzma's great, but he's not great. He's just a nice player who can really pop. But you got to keep things in perspective and not put yourself in a cap situation where you can't build a winner. Okay. And then if you're just aiming for the first round and second round and you pay Kyle Kuzma $140 million, good luck. It ain't nothing gonna come of that. And he gonna want out of there eventually. So there's some stuff he just see coming. He gonna be rich one way or another. He gonna get his money. But what he also needs to understand for himself is you're a Laker, bro. You ain't gonna want to be in Washington for too long. You ain't gonna want to be there for too long. You are a big market player. We all know this. So eventually he gonna want to either be back in LA on one of the Clippers or the Lakers or New York or something like that. Because he's not a wizard. I'm just telling you guys right now, that's a supermodel. He wants to be in a big market. So I would not be surprised if he passes up Washington's bag or just takes their bag and then pulls a Zach LaVine and demands out of there soon as he signs it. So that's what I see coming there. It's one or the other. But yeah, Washington, don't overpay Kuz, man. Don't do that to yourself. You did that to Bradley Beal, and that's why you're in the situation right now. And Porzingis needs to be moved. He's in a no man's land situation. His timeline doesn't make sense with either of the players you're with necessarily. I mean, you can play with Kuz, but you better get a lot more than that to help him win. And Bradley Beal's not durable enough. Not durable enough. And that's another aspect of Bradley Beal. You're just waiting for him to get hurt, and the older he gets, the more hurt he's going to be. So that's really the end of that, man. My oven's here. I'm out. Hope everybody in Washington has a great day. Peace. BDR 45.